Welcome to the Muscle Fitness Podcast. Today, in episode 8, we are going to talk about 5 things you can do off the bike to reduce your chances of arm pump when you are on the bike. So, this is a quick hit podcast, and we keep them short and to the point, focusing on the things you can do off the bike to race faster and safer. At Muscle Fitness, we work with racers remotely in the real world. Many have a life full of commitments and don't have a lot of time to train off the bike or ride. We provide training off the bike, so days on the bike, whether training or racing are faster and safer. So many of us have experienced arm pump, but what is it? And arm pump is intermittent pain in the forearms from holding onto your bike's grips. The pain arises because your forearm muscles swell, reducing blood flow and oxygen levels needed to recover the muscle. So that's basically what arm pump is. I'm sure many of us have experienced. I know I've experienced it, especially if I go out too hard on a training day. That's one thing I find personally for me is that I need to warm up a little bit to my efforts when I'm training because I'm just a little bit more fatigued, not as fresh. And I definitely know that arm pump feeling. I'm sure many of you have felt it in many situations, training, racing, whatever it will be. So first, before we go into things you can do off the bike, I think it's just important to say there are lots of things you can do on the bike. I'm not a riding coach. I specialize in off the bike fitness, but we do know there are a couple things that we can do. So first is getting seat time, having proper settings with our suspension and bars, having good form on the bike, making sure we're breathing. And then I know racers as well that have bought vibration dampening products as well to help cure or help alleviate arm pump. So there's a couple things you can always do on the bike, of course, but I'm here to talk about off the bike. So let's go ahead and jump right into the 5 things we can do. So first, aerobic fitness, steady effort exercise, building up to sessions that are at least an hour, if not longer. As fitness increases, ideally, we'd want to be doing even longer steady state sessions. These steady state sessions can be cycling, rowing, running, but what's really important is the intensity level. And if I was training with zones, or the athlete I'm working with was training with zones, this would be a zone 2 effort. But a good way to kind of correlate this would be talking about your breathing or how it feels. So on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being like walking, 10 being like all out effort, you can only hold a couple of seconds, I would say a zone 2 aerobic effort is around a 3 or a 4 on that scale. So 3 or 4 effort, you can speak a couple words at a time. It's definitely not easy, but it is far from a hard effort or an all out effort. So you can speak a couple words, labored breathing, but we're not like out there hammering it. And we're definitely not at kind of that tra-la-la easy pace, like full sentences are really easy. So that couple words at a time is definitely where you're looking at for aerobic training. And I think this is one that a lot of athletes are not super interested in because they don't think they're going to get any better. But essentially, aerobic training builds our mitochondria. And that's kind of the powerhouse cell of the muscle. It makes our body more, the mitochondria is important, kind of the powerhouse of the cell. But then in addition, that zone 2 training, it makes our aerobic system more efficient, helps with essentially our heart, the stroke rate becomes more efficient. The motor in us gets better and more efficient. So when we're racing, your body's going to utilize oxygen and be able to more efficiently uptake it and reduce the chances of arm pump. So long story short, that zone 2 steady state RPE 3-4, that's really going to help make our body more efficient racing and reduce chances of arm pump. We'll just leave it at that. Now, 2, anaerobic fitness. So this is the other end of the spectrum. This is really, really hard efforts. So these are high intensity workouts that spike the heart rate and then allow for recovery. These can be intervals, cycling, rowing, running, but then it can also be things like burpees, mountain climbers, jumping rope. And these are like, we're doing a short, hard effort, recovering. We're doing a short, hard effort and recovering. You could really measure the intervals here in seconds, not minutes or not hours. These are short, hard intervals. And what these do is these spike the heart rate to prepare your body for the intensity of racing. They're basically training your anaerobic system. So we talked about first training your aerobic system. Now we're talking about training your anaerobic system. And we all know this feeling of when you get your heart rate up for a race, especially if you're not warmed up and it's just like really hard. and it really hurts. And so this training of the anaerobic system helps kind of curb that feeling when you start racing, just helping that your body's used to dealing with this high intensity, dealing with getting blood to working muscles. Yeah, on top of that, you can reduce this feeling by properly warming up. I talked about that last week, episode 7. So if you want to learn more about warming up specifically, I go deeper into that previous episode 7 on warming up. So those are the first two. We've got aerobic and anaerobic. Now 3, having great core and leg strength. So any great riding coach will tell you how important these are on the bike. And I'm here to say we need to develop these muscles off the bike to ensure we can perform and last as long as we need to on the bike. The body moves in all planes, and we need to develop these muscles in all planes. So when we're racing, even though we're kind of like on the bike, we are working every muscle in all directions. So like our leg, we need forward force, back force, inward force, outward force. Our core, we're moving our core in all directions. And don't forget, our core is not just the six pack, the muscles in the front. Our core wraps all the way around our body. So we need to develop these muscles all the way around our body, the core all the way around, and our legs all the way around. And we want a strong core and lower body to ensure we are not overcompensating with our upper body and have too tight of a grip on the handlebars, increasing our chance for arm pump. So make sure you're working that lower body so we can properly squeeze the bike, and then make sure you're working that core so we can properly have good form over the bike, maneuver the bike, and not let the bike work us, and then not overcompensate with our upper body. Now 4, we want to be properly hydrated and have proper nutrition. So being properly hydrated helps regulate body temperature and gets nutrients to working muscles. Along with being properly hydrated, this will also help keep the heart rate down because we're literally pumping thinner blood. As we get dehydrated, there's less blood volume in our body. So essentially, our veins, our arteries, where we're pumping blood to and from working muscles, they become smaller. Then when they become smaller, they're becoming thicker, there's less nutrients in them. So staying hydrated is a really big one around training and racing. It's going to help keep you on top of your bike and reduce those chances of arm pump because there's actually the blood volume to get everything we need to those working muscles. And speaking of hydration, there's also minerals that are important that come into play here. Minerals such as sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. And essentially what these minerals do is they help our body utilize water and get nutrients to working muscles and help our muscles work. They help them contract when they need to contract, and they help them release when they need to release. So simply put, you don't have to go too crazy on these minerals. If you're having a high quality sports drink, just about all sports drinks are already going to have these in it. Pretty much any popular sports drink brand is going to have these minerals in it. So when you're training and racing, make sure you're hydrated and make sure you're having some sports drink around and during your races. That will make a really big difference. Now, next, proper nutrition. Having proper nutrition is going to allow the body to perform at its best. Now, there are tons of diets out there. There are tons of theories, all these things we could talk all day about different types of nutrition and what to do and not to do. But simply put, I've been an endurance coach for a decade now, and I can tell you that eating a balanced diet with a lot of variety, a lot of real food, I think is the best. So not cutting out any food group, not cutting out any one particular thing, keeping it balanced, having a lot of variety, I think that's going to help your body perform at its best. And then 5, and I think this one really ties it all together, and that is a warm-up before the race. So warming up before any physical activity helps prepare the body physically and mentally for racing, making that connection. Warming up increases your heart rate, therefore your blood flow, and enables more oxygen to reach the muscle. So the idea with warming up here is we're not asking for our body to perform going 0 to 100, just like our bike. We're never going to warm up our bike and then just hold it tapped wide open. And our body ideally is the same way. We don't want to do that. We're not going to get the performance out of it. So warm up your bike, warm up your body. There are 2 ways to warm up. So first, if you have a bicycle with you, or you're a runner, or wow, if you travel with a rower, that's awesome. But if you have options for any of those, biking, a quick light run, or maybe you have a rower with you, first hopping on one of those or putting on your running shoes and slowly increasing your heart rate. Doesn't need to be anything crazy or intense, just taking that baseline and slowly warming up your body, increasing heart rate, blood flowing, getting blood and oxygen rich blood to your muscles first. And then two, after that would be going through a series of dynamic movements. So doing lower body, upper body, and core movements to help get the body going and fluid and having everything kind of like firing on all cylinders. Now, if you don't have a bike with you, if you're not a runner, if you don't travel with a rowing machine, which is I would say is a big thing to take to a race with you, you can skip the first warm up and use what you have. Use your body and start doing those dynamic movements, making sure you're warming up the upper and lower body. I know for me personally, to help reduce arm pump, I need to do some kind of push-ups, plank variations, push-up variations. I do travel with bands, so I'll do a couple band movements with my upper body. And I feel that those really kind of help wake up my upper body, wake up my forearms, get blood flowing, and it reduces my chance of arm pump for sure. So making sure that you're getting in that warm-up before you head to the start line is definitely going to help the body feel better and kind of feel more prepared for the work that's about to happen, and reduce your chance of arm pump. And also, I feel really reduces that kind of hard hit feeling. You're already kind of warmed up, you're feeling good, and it won't feel quite as intense as you take off, and you'll be able to take off with the intensity you're looking for when you start racing. So, and once again, I'll say, if you missed last week's episode, if you want to know more about warming up, go back to episode 7. I talk a lot more about it. So there you have it. Those are the 5 tips of things that you can do off the bike to reduce your chances of getting arm pump on the bike. Next week, we're going to talk about hydration, how to stay properly hydrated for any type of racing, whether you're racing hare scrambles, motocross, enduro, sprint enduro, GNCC, something extreme like a 24-hour race. I'll be talking deeper about that, about how to properly stay hydrated and get the most out of your body so it performs properly. And then, do you want to try Masto Fitness? Send me a message on Instagram. I'll hook you up with a free week of training of our single jump training program. See you guys next week.